Oh my, that part one was so valuable. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure you find this previous part one of this interview. Now, part two is full of more fascination and new great tools. Let's go to part two right now.
Can you tell us a contrasting experience?
Yeah, this one is I stayed at what was described at me. I was speaking at this place back in Philadelphia, and it was described as the greatest kind of gentleman's club in the country, finest. And you could picture it. It's old world, old dark wood, everything, right? And there's rooms. You've got to dress a certain way. You can't become a member until you're sponsored by a member, right? And it's got all of those ingredients in it. Well, I ended up, I was speaking there. We had booked rooms for some of our group that was back there. We had booked and had the function there, so we had paid for the meeting room as well, several meals and so forth. We'd dropped some money there. Well, when I leave and go to my next gig down a couple states away, right, I recognize that I don't have my jacket, black jacket that I wear when I present. I've left it there. So I call, and I get a message machine. So I leave a message on the message machine, finally get a call back. Then I get transferred twice, and finally get to a young gal, and nobody's reported it missing, right? It's probably back in the room hanging a cat. How hard can this be, right? But they're having a heck of a time trying to find out where my jacket is. And so I says, would you mind just sending it? They finally get it. And I says, all right, that's great. You mind sending it back to me? She says, yeah, can I get your credit card number so that we can send this back to you? And I'm taken aback by that. I says, no, you're asking for my credit card number? You're going to have me pay you to send my jacket back to me because I left it there at your... I says, now, are you aware that I stayed there? Because it's left in the room that I paid for 3 days. That's near the room that we rented to hold the event in. That's near the restaurant where we had all the meals that we spent several thousands of dollars with you. Here, let me give you my credit card so you can send that back to me. 10 days later, my jacket arrived at my home in a 10 by 10 box. 2 inches deep. They had folded it up, and it was unwearable. I mean, it had more or less been ruined by the finest gentleman's club in the country, right? So you got Josie, who gets sent home with a photo album and all this experience, and then you've got my jacket that finally arrives a month later, destroyed. And those are the two experiences you can have, right? I would suggest to you that the young man at the resort is valued. He's become that kind of a guy for a reason. That doesn't happen by accident. You don't just graduate high school and become that guy. Something's happened. And these other folks have become those kind of people because nothing's happening to them. Nobody cares about the work they're doing, and so they don't have to do great work. So just the contrast is so dramatic, isn't it?
Yeah, and that same company tells all the employees what a great brand they are and that they too are the best people in the world because they work for that brand, but they don't celebrate true greatness.
And what's interesting, it's funny because yesterday we were working with a group that is it's a battered women's center. They provide services to women who are trying to escape abuse and they literally have to come there and be protected and given housing and so forth. And I'm meeting with their leadership team to tell them how important it is that each individual in this organization is extraordinary, right? You guys need to be the best in the world at what you do because this is the most critical moment in the lives of these women and children. They need a warm place to stay and they need a home. They need safety for a day or two. Then they need the opportunity to grow and develop. So,
As you listen, I just want to let you know that there's more we're trying to help you with. Valuable benefits we've invested in for members of our Bold Encounters Club. We've also created a way for you to just see if these advantages help you. Go to boldencounters.tv and join, and you'll get a free month's access to experience premium guidance, tools, and the care that we've invested in this work. At boldencounters.tv, you can also give club access to someone else you think may want more meaning or need more money in their life's work. Stay with us today, and at the end, you'll hear all about these great benefits.
we spent the whole time trying to convey to them that if you're going to become the best in the world at what you do, Each of you individually have to be, right? Shakespeare, to be or not to be. That's the question, and it is the question. You have to be the best in the world or your organization cannot be. And it's hard to understand it, it's hard to accept it, and it's even harder to figure out how to do it, but it doesn't matter. I can be extraordinary or not. It's entirely up to me, but it's my choice, my decision to do it. And you and I spend a lot of time in the world speaking to groups and all kinds of people. But at the end of the day, that's the purpose of my work, is for them to understand that they can make a difference once they have decided to be more than they thought they were capable of being.
So profound. You contrast that with rewarding someone for great work with cash or things that are nice or electronics and accumulating things like that.
Well, and there's two other words that I'll share with you, because what I run into is there's this sense of accumulation being the most important thing. Yeah. You know, Ken Behring, famous billionaire, talks about this very thing. I thought that having nice stuff would make me happy. You know, in Jack Canfield's Success Principles book, this interview exists. And so he bought all this incredible homes and boats and planes and stuff. And nothing changed in his life until he went on a trip with an organization that gave wheelchairs away to disabled kids that stepped on landmines and so forth. And he was in South America, and he had just put together a wheelchair and picked up an 11-year-old damaged boy and places him in it. And when he turned to leave to put together another wheelchair, this boy grabs a hold of his leg and won't let go. The boy's talking in his native tongue as fast as he can, tears in his eyes. Behring can't understand the language, looking for help, calls over a young man that has both languages, listens to the boy, to what he's saying, and then he looks up at Behring. He says, the boy's telling you he doesn't want you to leave yet. He wants you to stay longer. He wants you to stay long enough so he can recognize your face or memorize your face. So when he meets you again in heaven, he can thank you again for bringing him his wheelchair. And Behring says, in that instant, and this is an older man, billionaire, world famous, has buildings at the Smithsonian named after him, right? In that instant, happiness arrived in my life for the first time, meaning for the first time, purpose for the first time. He flew home, started his own wheelchair foundation from that moment. You want to talk about the power of appreciation. It changes people. The makeup, the very cells of their body transform into something else, and the rest of their life is spent in the activity of gratitude.
Such a powerful story. Think about how critical that is for someone wondering not just about work purpose, but life's purpose. But certainly the daylight hours between 7:30 and 7, that story is one of my favorites that I've heard you tell. I want you to set your modesty aside for a second. I love that story so much. And I know that you've had other examples and experiences out there that illustrate that we're not really talking about flattery here. Could you tell us a couple of examples?
Again, happened last night to a waiter at a nice restaurant we were at. He just carried himself in a way that you're not accustomed to all the time. And it matched the quality of the restaurant, which it often doesn't. But this did. This kid, and he was a kid, he just carried himself well. He was delightful. He was delightful before he got to our table. He looked delightful. We were smiling time he got there because he smiled the way he did. And we went through this evening where he provided with the food and everything that was necessary. Called on us the right amount of times, really just nothing in the way, very comfortable, right, the whole evening. And so at one point when he'd come back close to dessert, and I just observed, I just stopped. I says, I want to let you know, Hunter, his name was Hunter, I want to let you know the difference that you have made in our evening. We've just driven about an hour to be here. We were going down to what's called Luminaria down at Thanksgiving Point last night, big deal. And we're in their restaurant. And I says, I want you to know, we just got out of a car for an hour. We've been in a car for an hour in traffic at the worst time to go through Salt Lake City. And so that impacted our evening, right, a little bit. We came in here looking for respite, and you have provided us with an extraordinary experience that will enable us to go out into your light show out here and really enjoy that. And he was taken aback by it. It created a pause. He does great work, and I think people value it. I observed all the other tables around us. None of them spoke to him at all, except to ask him for stuff and get stuff. Your light just went off there. And so he almost, Mark, didn't know what to do with it, like your gal. And I can't even tell you how many people, because I make this a habit. This is something that I've been doing for a long time. I go out of my way to make sure people know they're seen and appreciated and valued. And I can't tell you how many times they have broken down and can't talk. And it's tears. and again, I get this, but that's the payback. That's an appreciation that no one can give me, right? I'll never receive an appreciation moment from Mark Cook at my work that will touch anything like the moment when I have touched them. I had a little gal come up to me in San Antonio not too long ago. I'd held over 3 weekends. We'd spoken with 600 people, 200 at a time in 4 sessions a weekend. And out of 600 people that I'd spoken to, one came up to me at the end of the 3 sessions and said, "I need you to know that you've changed my life." And that is a recognition moment for me, right? Now, there's hundreds of other people, and a handful of others would have felt that. But one did something about it, right? She had to come and let me know of the difference that I had made. So that happened to me. And I get that more than I deserve, because as you know, when you're on the road and you're on stage and you're the star, people will come and tell you stuff and you'll get accolades. And I've prided myself on being good at my craft and being able to change the way people feel about things and being able to speak in the right kind of way and to tell a story in the right kind of a way that will make a difference. And I've had that. But it's those moments that are the most important ones to me, if that makes sense to you. And when we have this sense of gratitude that you talk about, the ones I've received back from observing the waitress, the worker at the hotel, I've been written notes from somebody who I took a moment to convey appreciation to in the hall of a hotel. I've left with this incredible note left in my room from these people that just, it changes the way you fly home from the event, right? Because you took a minute and said, "Hi, I see you." That's it. Really, at the end of the day, it's, I see you. I saw what you did. I experienced the work that you did. And she changes rooms, 500 rooms a day, right? And somebody in one of the rooms took a minute to tell her, "I saw you. I see you. I can see that you're alive." You and I have both done work, and all the people that see this, we've done work where you believe in your heart and soul, nobody knows you're alive doing that work. And you think, wow, I just did a great job there.
Yeah, it's so true. And we think often of ourselves even in that situation. But, it's also true for 9 out of 10 people that surround us in a workplace or on a project. And it's really important to realize that literally 9 out of 10 of those people around you or on the project or partnered with you are feeling unnoticed in their exceptional efforts and going above and beyond.
Yeah, 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10.
11 out of 10 are not seen. And when you find sadness in the world, when you find people that are down and out, and I get plenty of chances to work with those people with some of the groups we work with, what they're missing is being loved. What they're missing is the feeling of gratitude that someone else has for them, right? They don't feel like there's any meaning in their life. They don't feel like that anything that they do matters to anyone. There's a great quote about that the burnout that we feel at work and the sense of loneliness with social media. We are connected. We have 2,500 friends and we don't have one friend. in the world that means anything to us or that we mean anything to. And when you get to the bottom of it, it's what one gentleman said is, we're not doing anything meaningful with anyone else. We're not doing any work that matters with anyone else. And so we're not feeling a single thing. And most of us work unattached to everybody else. You and I used to work through one glass wall away from each other in our offices, right? And before that, just down the hall. But we would make time to walk the difference. And we spent a lot of time, endless amounts of hours, talking to each other and going over what we were working on. And we did that together. The reason that we have a lifetime friendship is because we did that together. You and I know that we walked past the offices of other people that should have been working with us that didn't do a single thing, right? And leaders that didn't care about the work that was done and all of that. And this idea of doing something meaningful with someone else and acknowledging that it was meaningful wasn't a problem for, I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think it was a problem for me to tell you how influential great work, the book, the research was. I took you with me on my trips to speak for an hour on that topic because I valued that work, and so we had that interaction. And you're more than kind to the work that I do and always have been. But it makes an enormous difference in how that work feels to me because someone like you took the time to say, hey, that's great work. What you're doing is great work. And put your modesty aside and tell me a story that you have. You know, being interviewed right here, this is recognition, isn't it? I'm going to invite you to come and speak because you are valuable to me. I think you have something to say when in fact I don't. But you make me feel like I do.
You're so kind to me and to other people, for sure. I learned the number one leadership action from you by witnessing it and experiencing it personally. Before I tell you about that, in the audience about that, I want to point out another key that you uncovered for me. It's that most people in work life just don't love to talk to strangers. And they're willing to do it if they must, but they don't do it every day. And I witnessed you doing it every day. And it made a big difference in your career and to the people around you. I know that firsthand.
You know, it's interesting. Yesterday I was with Amanda Tullis, who's my partner and a friend of yours who you know. And we were doing this. She's actually the chairman of the board at this care center, women's center. And what's interesting, this happened yesterday. She was wearing a specific jacket, and a stranger, complete stranger, we were walking by, a lady told her that she loved her jacket, right? Well, when I'm with Amanda, which is a fair bit, it happens every day that I'm with her. Now, it has to do with how she carries herself. She's a striking gal. Yeah. She dresses to the nines, right? Yeah. She's Nordstrom gal, right? She's the best of the best. But someone recognizes her in some way and appreciates something she's wearing every day, to the point where I almost get sick of it. I don't want to walk around with her anymore. And sometimes it'll happened at a restaurant a week ago that we happened to be at. This lady commented on her outfit, and Amanda thanked her and walked by, and I just stopped and held my hands up. Like, how do I look? How do you like my sweatshirt, right? Because nobody says things to me like that. But that's all it takes. That's all it takes. And to your point, if you started today, this afternoon, this morning, whatever your time zone is, and you look for somebody to say that to, right? You can be shy, introverted. Whatever you believe about yourself isn't true, by the way. So let's make that point, right? The insecurities you have and what you believe about yourself, that you're nothing or you can't do that or you can't speak well, is not true. And I can take 3 minutes and prove it to you.
Or that you're too good for it.
Or that you're above it, right? But that's a whole nother problem. Good luck with that one. But find somebody to make a comment to. Wow, you look great. I love that jacket. I love that dress. Boy, your kids are well behaved. Anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It's a walk by. And you will find that the more you do it, the easier it becomes to do it. And then you'll start to craft. You'll start to learn how. One, you'll start to see things with more detail. And then you'll start to learn to feel that gratitude and have the ability to talk to people. But talking to people is a craft you learn. Some of us are born with a gift of gab. You were, I was, others are. and we talk too much. But everyone can learn to do it, right? Yeah. Everyone has the seeds of greatness within them.
Okay, I want to talk about a big lesson related to talking to strangers that you taught me. First of all, I was doing some of these interviews that we do in research, and I interviewed a super smart, a very sophisticated and decorated psychiatrist, and she focused on the workplace. And she did something funny to me. She turned the conversation on me and called me an introvert. And I said, I'm not an introvert. And she said, yes, you are, and I'll prove it. She said, we aren't an introvert in all situations. There's some contexts where we're introverts, and sometimes someone is never an introvert, and sometimes they're always an introvert for sure, but most people have some things that they're comfortable doing and other places that they're not comfortable talking to other people or being around other people. And so for you, do you like going into a large group, maybe 250 people, and you don't get to speak, you don't have the floor, you're not in charge, you're just supposed to be one of many? And I thought about it, reflected, and I said, no, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And yet you're very willing, she said, to talk to an individual stranger, 3 individual strangers. You're willing to speak in front of 1,000 people up on a stage, and even if it's hostile, but you don't like going in front of 250 friends? I said, yeah, it's very uncomfortable for me. And she explained to me why it is. But then she explained a solution. And she said, you need to practice by thinking about the 12 people. You don't have to do 12 all at once, but you want to think about 12 people that you're very comfortable getting to talk to in kind of an icebreaker situation. And then when you get into such an event, you want to go to each one of those one at a time. The reason that I'm bringing this up in relation to you is that I watched you when you came to work at our place years and years and years ago. I watched you go meet each person. That was natural the first day. And I was young and I didn't understand the social nature of work and workplace. And so as you started to do it a second day, a third day, a fourth day, you were going around and shaking hands and talking to people all over the office. And it just didn't stop. You went and talked to people all the time. Now, as maybe a cynical or skeptical young man, and that cynicism got me, and I started to judge you. I've apologized for all that I've misjudged you in this story, but that I am also sorry for, that I misjudged you there. And in fact, you came and you were friends with me. And even while you were trying to be friends with me, I was misjudging you a little bit. Then I noticed you talking to a young woman who was very attractive, and you would sit with her up in the lunchroom. And I was like, wow, that's not even his wife. And what is he doing all the time with her over and over every day, having long conversations after lunch in the lunchroom? And I judged you there too. And I came to find out that she had cancer. She was one of your wife's best friends. And she died right after that spree of judgment that I'd placed on you.
Had cancer all through her body. Yeah. That's all we did. I just listened that whole time. And we luckily got to spend a few months. And I happened to find out about it. She came into my office, actually, when I didn't know her. Yeah. And she says, you do personal coaching, don't you? And I says, yeah, people ask me to do that. She says, yeah, I've just been feeling off a little bit. She didn't know at that moment that her whole body was full of cancer. She'd find that out in the next month.
But she felt funky, I knew that.
Yeah, yeah. And she was, you remember her, she sparkled like a star, right? She was just superstar. In fact, the company held...
part of it. She was very smart.
Just who she was, right? But yeah, it was, and there was a lot of people who misread that. I was approached, ultimately HR,
really?
Because people would ask about it, right? And then the company actually held a big moment for her, if you remember Mindy Cox. And we celebrated her, and she died a very short time after. This is a young, beautiful gal, right? Yeah. Filled with life. And so, yeah, people will, and you have to be careful how you do things. But yeah, people will misread things.
The other part of that is that, the glad handing, as I viewed it, that ultimately I finally got right about that and started trying to figure you out and learn about you. And I put something vulnerable in front of you. I said, hey, you do something very similar to me. It's a completely different topic. I'm creating great work. You're helping create more great work by recognizing it and appreciating it. And I think we should work together a little bit better. And I didn't know how. I didn't have a specific plan. But, I thought that we could help each other in a couple ways that I suggested. Very soon after that, you came to me and you said, Mark, I have 5 gigs. I have one in Michigan. I have one in Phoenix. And I can't remember where they all were, so I'm not going to name. I remember one was in Dallas. And we went first to the first one. And each one was separate. They weren't all on the same trip. And I went to the first one, and you gave me half your time. You gave me half your time. And that, no one else will recognize this, but I know that it's true. That impacted your ability to build your reputation with all those clients of that city, build your reputation with those sales reps in that city, and there are about half a dozen in each of the cities. And you gave that career capital, so to speak, to me for no reason, just for free. You just gave it to me. You didn't expect anything in return. And the first time I was like, what is he doing? And the second time I thought, wow, he's going to do this again? And the third time I started going, wow, I really like this guy. And then the fourth and the fifth time, something interesting happened. And you taught me one of the critical lessons in all of business. Of all the research I've done, one of the most standout findings with tens of thousands of people sampled was that a leader creates better results in 9 different ways if they are trusted and if they trust. Now, I used to work for Stephen Covey and Stephen M. R. Covey, and Stephen M. R. Covey wrote 2 books this thick, I think it was 450 pages, about how to bring trust into an organization and accelerate the speed of production and success with customers. Now, it's interesting for me to contrast those brief moments with you and how impactful that was versus reading his books. And I did both. And your genuine sacrifice, and that's the point I'm getting at, not just trust, but sacrifice. You gave something of yourself. You gave that career capital with no expectation of something in return. And I had 0 reason after that 3rd to 5th engagement to not trust you. When you give someone something that you own and you have the ability to use, and you give it to them without expectation in return, they have really no recourse other than they feel trust towards you. And it is real and it's powerful. And that's really one of the reasons that we are best friends, was that experience. And I'm grateful, and I'm so sorry I misjudged you again.
Yeah, Aristotle said we are what we repeatedly do. Yeah. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit of doing well. But again, Da Vinci, the concept of doing was the most important thing. Maybe the brightest guy ever walked the planet, with one exception. But it's about being authentic. You only get trust when you are trustworthy, and you can't become trustworthy in any artificial way. There's not a set of behaviors that you can follow. I can't act trustworthy and get it. I can't, from my exalted boss position, insist on being trusted. Yeah. You're either trusted and trustworthy, or you're not. Yeah. And the people you talk about that get results over time. I can get short-term results by demanding them. Yeah. Right? But
or paying for them.
Paying for them. But those end, and you run out of gas. You have to replace those people. I don't know how you can overstate the importance of being trusted if you're going to be a meaningful human being and add value to this planet while you're here. I think it has to be that. And if you want to build trust with people, give them opportunity, give them responsibility, recognize that they're alive, but cause them to feel deeply appreciated by you. And they will love you forever. And it can be done in one short thing, one short moment, when they see you in a different light, right? And everyone's going to judge you based on what they see from a distance first, because that's how we come in contact with each other. But then ultimately something happens, you go, oh, they're not that, they're this. And I totally misread that, and now I love that person, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's critically important to live a life that's trustworthy.
Okay, this is a moment that I've been waiting for, to get a premium action plan put together with you for people that haven't done serious, high-level appreciation and recognition in the workplace, with coworkers, with their team, with an organization that they lead. You're going to tell us one thing this week, the baby step this week, in a premium action plan to get us to do it this week in extraordinary fashion. First of all, I want to tell you how much I appreciate your words. I appreciate you so much. And I just want to say that in front of the free listeners that won't be joining us for the premium action plan. And I want to let you know that I see you. I have seen the great work that you've done. And I can't wait to hear what you say next. Thank you so much for joining me.
This is a moment not to let these ideas rush past. If anything created clarity or pointed to a change in your daily life, the premium action plan that we're going to do next will turn it into one small step this week. If you're not a member of the Bold Encounters Club yet, you can join at boldencounters.tv. You can even just try it. Or you can go click the premium version of this episode on the platform that you prefer to use. If you are a member, you're set. But remember, please, give access to someone else who needs to improve their life's work at boldencounters.tv. Either way, we'll begin the premium action plan next for members.